Tim always talks about how well these 3800s just coast. And you're never stressing them because of the amount of torque they make and how well the power gets put down through this 65E. What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in today. We got another road to horsepower with the 3800. We were thinking about some horsepower numbers and decided to land on 300 wheel being a super obtainable goal for anybody just getting into a 3800, and it's going to be a super enjoyable power level to be at. Something you're going to be able to attain with any factory supercharged car using these parts coming up. All right, guys, so starting off, we got our 3800 cold air intake. We got our full cold air airbox or our fender well intake. Both killer options for getting more air in the engine and open up that blower for lots of whine. Now, any engine is just a big air pump. So we really just want to think, how can we get more air in and more air out of this 3800 V6? Cold air intake, get rid of that stock airbox. Coolest thing about the intake is you're going to release all of that M90 blower whine, which is ultimately what we want. After that, I highly recommend, with the 300 horsepower goal in mind, that we go ahead and get our LQ4 mass airflow kit and the Northstar throttle body on the car. Northstar throttle body is going to add a ton of throttle response. That LQ4 MAF is going to allow us to increase the airflow without maxing the MAF. And our ZZP 1.0 tunes are really dialed in on that LQ4, so you can go ahead and get yourself a mail order tune. We'll tune them for the LQ4 and you'll be ready to go. Beyond that, I recommend right off the bat, we go ahead and get the Gen 5 blower on the car. Gen 5 blower came factory for 04 Plus Grand Prix, Series 3. All Series 3 supercharged cars use the Gen 5 blower. We used to do a lot of porting with the Gen 3s. It's really a thing of the past now. The Gen 5s are $50 to $100 in most any junkyard, so it is such a more efficient, effective blower that you're going to have a hard time spending. Even if you spend $250 on one used somewhere, you're going to have a hard time spending $250 anywhere else to improve your setup. What's cool is if you have an 04 Plus car, you already got the Gen 5 blower. Gen 5 swap, now is a killer time to go ahead and add our full-size intercooler system. GM decided it wasn't a good idea to intercooler this car, so ZZPerformance has got your back there. Zoom's been working on this passion project for 20 years and we have it dialed in. The 3800 is literally the only GM vehicle that came boosted without an intercooler. You get those IATs down, and we're going to be reducing tons of KR, allowing us to run a smaller pulley. Overall, just creating a much more effective and efficient setup. It's literally a bolt-in system, as it would be from GM. So get your intercooler. That's also going to include our bill of fuel rails. So now we are dialed in literally all the way down to the engine. You know, we got our intake, throttle body, MAF, Gen 5, and we're intercooled. Here's where you can take a couple of different routes. Below the intercooler, here's where we got some decisions to make as far as valve train goes. To make 300 wheel horsepower, you're gonna need a valve train upgrade. GM rated this car for 260 wheels, so you might think 300's not too far. However, they dyno 190 to 210 at the tire stock, so we got 100 wheel to make. Valve train. Is the engine gonna stay in the car? If you don't wanna take the engine out of the car, let's go with 1.9 rockers. 1.9 rockers and our 90-pound valve springs are going to be a pretty killer setup that are going to get you close to that 300 wheel mark. If you want to really lock in the 300 wheel mark, then I suggest you go with one of our camshafts. We got the VS camshaft. The VS cam is going to be your entry-level cam, valve train safe. Full daily driver valve train safe cam. One of my favorite cams above the VS cam is the XP. XP cam is the most streetable, performing, all-around bang for your buck camshaft that you could ever put in a 3800. You can run 11s on it, or you can go to work on it. It is going to be a killer cam to have, and if you want something a little more, we got the XPZ. And beyond that, we have our NIC cam. It stands for non-intercooled cam. It has a good amount of overlap, so it sounds super cool, but even though it is a non-intercooled cam, you can use it with an intercooler. Has a ton of overlap, so it's gonna have the chop that you're probably looking for if you're adding a camshaft, and overall very comparable to the XP, just a lot more aggressive lope. Choose your valve train, make sure you get a good valve spring in it. All of our cams have recommended supporting mods, your double roller, your correct length push rods, like I mentioned, valve springs. So read up on the cam page. The cam and valve train page on the website's an awesome page to read through. It's got all the info you're gonna need to put together a cam package. And we even do have cam packages available too. So biggest thing is gonna be our Roll Master timing set, valve spring of choice, and the correct length push rods. Like I said, check out the page. It'll run you through the supporting mods you need to pick the right cam for you. With 300 horsepower in mind, we're gonna leave the stock bottom end alone, and heck, you don't even have to take the cylinder heads off the car. If you're feeling frisky and you wanna add head studs and check the heads out, that's a good idea, but definitely not needed, especially if this car has less than 150,000 miles on it. I'd say it's good to throw the camshaft in and go. You do not have to remove the heads for a cam install, but you know, you can if you wanted to get them back checked and maybe install some new valve seals. But beyond that, only other mod we need for 300 wheel part wise is an exhaust option. So, you know, we've been in the 3800 market for 20 years. We got a lot of exhaust options. Our full stainless header package is by far the most highest quality premium header available for the 3800 and gonna be what you want if you're really stretching for huge gains. Man, those things are sweet, high quality stainless, TIG welded in-house, you know the deal, boys. The power logs would follow that second as a more affordable option with good gains as well. Power logs in our downpipe are gonna be just as capable at a 300 horsepower level as the full header package. And last but not least, our favorite exhaust, and probably the only exhaust you should ever put on a 3800, is our equalizer downpipe. That works in conjunction with the power logs as well. Rather than a standard conventional downpipe that mounts on the rear manifold, this one brings the front and rear bank exhaust together for an equal length, crispy exhaust tone that is not like any 3800 you've ever heard. It's pretty funny how crazy these things sound, and you know, back in the day when we were doing our testing on that setup, we only lost 8 to 10 wheel horsepower over the conventional header. So as far as sound goes, we think it's definitely worth it. If you're going for sound, 100% hands down, ZZP equalizer. It equalizes the front and rear exhaust, pulses, creates a super exotic, high-end sounding 3800. Gets rid of all the rasp and bad sounding characteristics the 3800 has been plagued with for years. And then if you're on a blower, 2.5-inch catback for minimal drone. If you're thinking you're not too worried about any drone and you want to just go for the big 3-inch, you can do it, but I'm going to tell you right now, it's not needed. It is not needed. But we offer both. Either option, make sure you get the resonator on the blower. So now that we kind of got all the airflow stuff addressed, you know, intake, throttle body, Gen 5 swap, intercooler, our camshaft and exhaust, it's time to pick a proper pulley. If you have these mods that I've listed, we're probably gonna land in that 3.0 pulley range on pump gas. I do think it's achievable to make the 300 wheel mark on pump gas. If E85 is available to you, hands down, no ifs, ands, or buts, you need to get on E85 because that's really gonna be extremely knock resistant and allow us to run a good amount of timing and really lean on the setup. If you got E85 with full stack intercooler and a camshaft, there's no reason you shouldn't be able to have a 2.8 pulley on the car. Other than that, I don't think there's any reason to get much smaller than that, and just make sure you're monitoring your KR. Couple of small things that you definitely need to address while adding these mods, and these are what's cool about all these mods is they kind of fall into the maintenance category as well. is our NGK TR6 spark plug or Autolite 104. We've really been liking the NGKs lately. 2 heat ranges colder, again, more knock reduction. While you're putting those in, you might as well go for the ZZP high voltage coil pack and our plug wires. Get those old wires off the car that have been baked on top of that blower for 20 years and get something cool and much more reliable on there. Along with that, we're gonna add our 160 thermostat. 160 thermostat's gonna keep our coolant temps down. It's gonna keep our tranny temps down. It's gonna keep our IATs down. When we were doing intercooler testing, I found out that I could not get the IATs colder than the coolant temp. So if our coolant temp's 40 degrees colder, so are our IATs. And you might as well just go for the 160 because you get heat with it and it's that much cooler. Cooler, literally, pun intended. Beyond that, alternator voltage booster. All these cars are getting older. Anything we can do to help the ignition system and the charging system is gonna be beneficial. Add that with our power cable, and you're gonna have a really healthy, clean running setup with good voltage. It's important as we're pushing the horsepower and, you know, trying to have the fuel pump keep up. Speaking of fuel pumps, I think the factory one's probably okay at 300 wheel. If you want them even on E85 or 93 octane, you can probably get away with it. If you do want to go ahead and add our ZZ350 or AEM 320, those are both viable options, but not required for 300 wheel, I would say. However, if you're not looking to risk it, go ahead and do our ZZ350 and our high flow fuel filter. The ZZ350 and the high flow fuel filter are killer mods that are going to take you as far as you need to go on an M90. And speaking of as far as you need to go on an M90, the 60-pound injector is going to do that as well. If you have an M90 on the car, there's no reason to run an 80. The 60 is going to have good idle characteristics, good fuel mileage, and overall ethanol or 93 going to support 300 to 300, and they normally max out about 375 wheel. So going to be a good injector option for you there. So yeah, that pretty much wraps it up. By the time you get all these parts together, you're going to need a tuning solution. I can personally help you with that. Tune all the 3800s at ZZPerformance. Turbo Tim perfected a lot of those 1.0 files over the last 20 years, and we're still working on them every day. So whether you want a mail order tune or do something remotely via HP tuners, which is what I would highly recommend, we got you covered on the tuning department. It's 2024, boys. If you don't have HP tuners, I don't know why. I'll still ship you a PCM core, and it's still gonna run really good, but there's no reason you shouldn't have HP tuners. The MPVI is, I think, 400 bucks plus 2 credits. And that's gonna allow you to work with me via email. We're gonna exchange logs, tune updates, diag. You're making passes at the track, you're showing me those. We're perfecting shift points, air-fuel ratio, optimal timing, making sure the pulley's right, making sure you don't have vac leaks. It's a full support system that allows me to see how your car's doing and making sure that it's 110%. There's no, I put a flash on a core and ship it out to you and it is what it is. That was the old days. You gotta get with the new days. HP tuners. I know Ryan probably ranted about it on the phone. If you called and talked to him, and he does it for a reason, boys. There is a huge gain if you got HP tuners. So HP tuners are 1.0, select email file. I'll tech support you all the way through the tuning process and make sure we got a dialed setup. I think if you got all these mods, intake, North Star, LQ4, that map is going to be important with the amount of airflow we're moving. Intercooler, camshaft of choice, and exhaust of choice. On 93 or 85, we're going to put that 300 wheel under our belts, and it's going to be a killer daily driver at that level. As far as transmission stuff goes, I think you're fine. If you got a healthy, strong shifting 4T65E, it's going to do the job at the 300 wheel mark. Any standard rebuild is going to be efficient as well. If you want to have some peace of mind, do our input shaft, our pump shaft, hearted fourth, and the Sonax third piston. That's about all this car has in it, and it's been, you know, probably nearly 50, 60 12.0 passes in its life. So the 4T65E is one of the main reasons why I think the 3800 is great. It gets a little bit of a bad rap, but you know, you'll have that with any 20-year-old transmission. So at 300 wheel, I think you're good to risk it for the biscuit, for lack of better terms. But the biggest thing is keeping them cool. So other than that, you know, if you didn't want to go blower, like this guy back here, you wanted to do something nice and easy, Z3 Turbo Kit, 60-pound injector, the fuel filter that I keep harping you guys on because it's extremely important and for like $15, and the ZZ350, that'll put you at 300 wheel. Regal's sitting on a stock, long block, unopened, besides an L26 manifold, and it's easily making 300 wheel on about 15 pounds. So mad respect for all the blower boys. You can't beat the whine. You already got one, they're cheap, but if you want to just make it easy on yourself, get the Turbo Kit. What's cool about that Turbo Kit is it's going to take you easily to the 400 wheel mark, which is I think what we'll do next is 400 wheel on your 3800. But until then, thanks for tuning in. It's Bosie at ZZPerformance and Moose. We'll see you next time.